Well, hey there, my friend. Welcome back to the Creative Shop Talk podcast. I'm so happy you're here. If you're new, welcome. If you're an OG listener, I'm so glad you're here. We've been having so much fun here on the podcast lately. We found out when I was in Georgia, which was at the beginning of April, we found out that our podcast hit over 100,000. It just sort of went over that little line at some point in time while I was traveling. And thank you. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. Sometimes it's hard to do a podcast. I have shared this before, but I'm just talking to a mic. But the feedback I get, the comments that you leave, the reviews, all of the feedback that we get is just always so wonderful. So I want to thank you for that. I want to remind you that I do read all of any comments that you leave for us, any reviews that you leave for us. It's so helpful to the podcast, and it means a lot to me. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for listening. I know I kind of like minimalized the 100,000 number because I look at others, right? Comparisitis. We do this all, right? We all compare. And I'm like, oh, everybody else, I'm not going to say 100,000 because there's other people with millions of listeners. And then I'm like, Wendy, what would you coach thyself? What would you say to a member one of our retailers that did something that was like kind of blowing their own mind? I cannot believe we passed 100,000. We're actually kind of way past that now. And anyway, I'm going to take a minute and say, I'm very proud of myself for doing this. It's consistent. We've been doing weekly podcasts now since 2020. And thank you for listening. Actually, we're growing every week. We actually have like sponsors that have been reaching out. So things are changing and growing, and it's exciting. And so it's all because you listen. So thank you for listening. And I shall stop rambling now. And again, I am very grateful and appreciative of you listening, and your reviews really do help. So if you haven't left a review, or if you want to reach out into DMs and let me know what you think of the podcast, we're always, I promise you can jump in my DM anytime and let me know what you'd like to hear more of on the podcast or less of on the podcast, like maybe Wendy rambling. I don't know. So let me know, or who you'd like me to have on the podcast. I value your opinion, and I would love to hear from you. So there we go. Without further ado, let's jump into today's podcast, where I am going to share with you. I'm very excited to share some of the takeaways from my recent mastermind trip, hosting my Level Up Mastermind members in Thomasville, Georgia, early in April. And it was wonderful, and it was so amazing. And I'm going to share some of the things that I learned from my retailers, because I'm always learning, right? I learn more from retailers and shop owners, and from you, and from listeners, and from everybody every day. And I just want to share some things that I think you're going to find really helpful as well. Some takeaways. Okay, let's go. Running a retail business doesn't have to be so hard. Welcome to the Creative Shop Talk podcast, the go-to podcast for creative shop owners, studio owners, and independent retailers. I'm your host, Wendy Batten, retail business coach and mentor. Each week, I'll share simple, proven business strategies, inspiring stories from fellow retailers, and advice from industry experts. Together, we're going to work to find the success you want from your retail business, with more profits in your till and a little more joy in your life. Okay, so on my recent mastermind retreat, so we were in Thomasville, Georgia, hosted by one of our members. Our company made a decision a few years ago to only host in local towns. So either towns of our retailers, or, well, that's all we've done, is towns that our members live in. And I'm very proud of myself. I'm very proud of our business for doing that as well too. It's been really great. It's been really fun seeing their shops, seeing the communities, gathering in neighborhoods and spending money and like locally instead of in big resorts and all of the things. So that's why we chose to do that. So we were in Thomasville, Georgia. Beautiful town. If you've been listening to the podcast the last few weeks, I have been sharing a little bit about that. And I had last week, our hosts, Chris and Amy Hart, were on the podcast. So you may have heard that as well. But today I wanted to share some of the things that we talked about some takeaways, I guess, from the from the retreat itself. So we did hot seats. We call them hot seats. So our group, we go around and everybody is able to share. And I don't call them hot seats. I call them spotlights. I don't know why I don't like hot seats. I don't know why. I just don't. But it's really a safe place and an area for us all to be vulnerable and share, growth or excitement plans and help each other with paths to that goal, or maybe help them bust through a limiting belief or brainstorm projects. So it's really great. Everybody had an opportunity. And these were all members of my Level Up Mastermind, which is my 1-year mastermind group. And yeah, so we had a lot of fun with the hot seats, and that was really I think there was a lot of takeaways from that. I love watching everyone offer suggestions and solutions and help members work out and walk through issues. And one of the other things that happens when you're in person and doing groups like that, so the topic comes up at the table and there's some thought around it and, okay, we move on to something else. But the conversation continues, when you go out for dinner, when you're sitting, in our case, we had the opportunity to, sit around patios and, enjoying dinners and just being together. So conversations come up around those challenges and more ideas and seeds get planted and sparks fly. I just love watching the sparks and then flames. First you see the little spark and then you see the flame and then you see the fire going. And that's actually, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but there was a couple of fires that got started and they were so exciting to watch being built. We also talk about money. So we did some profit planning as a group. And I will say generally, when I say we're going to talk about money or budgeting or spreadsheets, everybody kind of stops listening, so you might be right now. However, this group are really dedicated, and I try to make things a little bit, I want to say fun, but then that makes me sound like I'm not professional. However, it's fun. So we worked on profit planning and simplifying the process of profit planning and the money dates. And, this group, they are in it to win it. So they are in it to run really healthy, happy businesses. So profitable, joyful, with, with a balance of life to be able to support their lives, because our businesses are supposed to work working for us, not against us. So this group was really into it. So that was really fun as well too. We spent a lot of time discussing CEO date, which is something that I teach my members to do weekly. CEO date is really, just assessing your business. It doesn't have to be a really long plan, but it's here's where we are and here's what we need to do this week in order to stay aligned with our plans. So we do that weekly, but we also add money dates into that. So we really focused a lot of time talking about money dates, and money dates, really are this, the same time every week, diving into our numbers, looking at everything. And I say on a regular drum beat. So it's a regular rhythm. So we can not have any surprises. So that's the whole goal, right? That's the whole goal. So we know and we are in control. We are in control of our businesses, and this group are all in control. They love being, they love seeing the numbers. So, but it's all learned, right? We're all learning at different stages. So there's always energy around a group when a group is together and we're encouraging each other. And I love that, because when you're sitting alone at your desk and you're just looking at your numbers and you're just doing the thing, right? It's harder than when you're with a group and there's a different spark, energy, vibe. I don't know what you want to call it, but it was exciting to be part of and watching everybody, on their laptops doing, getting their numbers and asking questions and working it out. And this year, I have been saying, and I will keep continuing to say at this time and place, as I'm recording this podcast, there's 2 really big factors that we all need to be paying attention to. And there's always these 2 factors that we always need to be paying attention to. So no matter what decade you're listening to this podcast in, or year, or whatever, the 2 big factors always are knowing who your customers are, really knowing who your customers are and being able to look ahead and having the right products at the right price for the right customer is going to be really important this year for everybody, and always, but really like paying attention and having that thumb on the pulse, as they say, of really paying attention to your customers and really like, what are they going to like, what's ahead for them. You have to be a little bit ahead of them, right? We have to be ahead of our customers in what's coming. Like, what are they going to want at Christmas? What are they going to want next January? Like, that's our job. That's what we do. So we're going to make sure that we're doing that. And that's a lot of things that we worked on. We also work on, and I mentioned pricing, but that's really understanding your cost of goods and making sure that you are pricing correctly for your business. This is a major thing this year. This is going to be a major thing. Again, it's a major thing every year, but sometimes we get a little complacent, right, with our numbers, and we're like, yeah. So we want to make sure that we're not just being nicely priced, because that'll put us out of business. We need to be properly priced. And again, if you're listening and you're an Inner Circle member, we have the Profits Masterclass available for you, the Profit Planning Masterclass. There's a Pricing Masterclass inside our Inner Circle, our Retailers Inner Circle. If you are not a member and you want access to those, you just got to join us. So that's my most popular program, my signature program, the Retailers Inner Circle. You can get in there. The mastermind is not open. I always get questions about the mastermind when I do a podcast like this, with talking about what happened at our mastermind retreats. That will open in August though. So we will open waitlist in August. Anyway, back to what we were learning. So understanding our numbers. So understanding your customers, understanding your margins. Those were big topics and big conversations. And again, I want to mention our businesses should be working for us, not against us. And cash flow and pricing, you're going to need to be on top of all of that this year. And I know, it always sounds boring, but those are really important things. So that's the type of work we do at these retreats. And we had a really great group, lots of conversations. As I said, there's conversations, while we're walking to dinner, there's conversations, I just love it. I've mentioned before in this podcast that this, it gives me joy to watch everybody thriving and the ripple effects, I guess, from, what I'm pouring into them and then what they're pouring into each other. So cool. I don't know. I love it. Okay. So I want to share a few things that I noticed, a few things that not happened. I don't know, whatever, my takeaways. And the first one is bravery is contagious. So bravery being when you're sitting at your shop, in your own shop, and you're thinking, Wendy keeps saying I should go live and we should do some social selling, and I know I should, but I don't know. And so what I watched was members helping members. So I watched retailers helping retailers all like during our retreat. Like literally, I watched people get really uncomfortable, turn on the camera right there at the retreat. Shout out to Kathy from Acorn Farms. She literally was sitting on the porch of her Airbnb that she was sharing with the other girls, and turned on her camera and, with their assistants and kind of them cheering her on in the background, and did her very first live. And let me tell you, that has been a very big ripple effect for Kathy. That's just at the time of recording this. It's just been a couple of weeks since that happened. And it's been kind of crazy, all the things that have happened for her. And so that's a shout out again to Lee from the Lemonade Stand and Amy from Schoolhouse Salvage, who both were like, girl, you just got to turn that camera on. Now, if you don't know Amy from Schoolhouse Salvage, Amy is one of our members, our mastermind members, and you want some encouragement around going live, or you want to see what's possible for you about going live, go watch her, my friend. She is energy personified. She's just amazing at what she does. So her and Lee supported, and Jess, shout out to Jess from Crosette. Everybody was supporting Kathy. Kathy went live. It was amazing. And then the next day, Amy Hart, who you met last week here on the podcast and who was our host, she was like, well, let's go down to the shop and let's do it live. Let's do it. Literally no prep. We kind of overthink these things, right? So when I say bravery is contagious, Amy was like, me too. So let's do it. So Amy as well, we walked into the shop, we set up the camera, she just went live, and Amy, again, from Schoolhouse Salvage, was standing there, right? We were all there, but Amy really supported her and helped her through that. And she's been doing the same, going bananas, like selling out of workshops and products and just turning on her camera, going live, not overthinking it. And again, bravery is contagious because it was just watching each other and supporting each other. And again, community, supporting community is just amazing to me. And I'm like the whole time just sitting back here grinning. I'm still grinning. I'm smiling right now because it makes me happy. So it made me really happy to see the crazy results that have happened just since that. And the ripple effect since everybody has gotten home. We've had follow-up calls and information, and I've been chatting with them and in other areas as well too. Not always these are public stories, but some really other brave things have been happening that are not my story to tell, but cool things that are happening amongst the group. So I love that. And I just think a takeaway there for all of us is to remember to surround ourselves with people who are really on our side and who really want the best for us and who are just lifting us up. So surround yourself with people who are doing the thing, who are doing the thing, as they say, and who just, who can help you. And so you can just turn on your camera and go live or whatever that thing is. So, and they're just there to support you. Anyway, it was very uplifting for me. Okay, number 2 is the thought of, I guess I don't really have a title for this one, but my notes here, it says setting your mind to something and sticking to it, but alternatively setting your mind to something and then being brave enough to change it. So there's 2 stories. There was 2 awesome things that, kind of came up during the retreat. And one of them was sticking to something until, and that you knew in your gut is working, and you've got to give it enough time, and you've got to let it, even if it's hard, it's hard sometimes, but in your gut and you're doing the right thing, because I will tell you, sometimes you stick to things and there's things you should be doing, and maybe you're not doing, maybe you're not looking at your numbers or whatever, and you're just like pig-headed about it. That's a different type of sticking to it. But sticking to something and doing the work around it and building the thing and, putting in the reps, as we like to say. It's like going to the gym, right? You go to the gym and you go for like 2 months, or, you go for a month maybe, and you just say, I don't know, I don't have any muscle, but, you just stick with it and you just lift those little baby weights every day, and you just keep lifting them. And then eventually, hey, look, I have muscle. This is working. I feel great. It doesn't happen right away. So having the courage to stick with it, I think, is really a brave thing and a smart thing. If something's working, if you can see little baby results, like baby results. Alternatively, having the courage to shift. So if I decide I'm going to run a 10-mile marathon, or 10 mile, I don't even know why I said mile, but anyway, I'm going to run this big marathon or whatever. And in particular, doing something in your business, and you're forcing it, and your knees aren't working, and you're in Band-Aids every night, and even going little baby steps is not working, and your body's not handling it or whatever. I make it sound like I'm a runner. I have no idea. I am not a runner. Not at all. Anyhow, in this particular case, one of our retailers literally just kept running, kept hitting a wall against something. And it was a really good idea, but just like hitting a wall and trying new things and trying to make it work and trying to force, a square peg in a round hole, or however they say that. And really, tried it, but it wasn't working. But having the courage to course correct, I have to say as well too, I'm seeing a lot of people that kind of need to course correct with some things right now. Maybe you had plans this year for some big things, or, different types of products that you're coming in. This is really time to pay attention, right? So this particular retailer had the courage to course correct and change a business model. And I think that takes a lot of bravery. It's really brave to do that. So and that's where I also think having people around you that, like sounding boards, having a business coach, plug for a business coach, there's a reason for a business coach, having other people who are not right there immediately in your worlds help you look at it from a different angle, or, maybe ask you some questions to see. Anyhow, that was number 2, setting your mind to something, and either setting your mind and being brave enough to stick with it if it's working, and it's just slow maybe or something, just keep sticking with it. And I've seen massive things happen that way. And having the courage to course correct when things aren't working, that takes, sometimes it's hard, and sometimes that can be a it can be really difficult. So having that courage. And number 3 is, oh my gosh, this part here. What I learned, and my takeaway number 3 here is collaborations and relationships and community are super hot, my friends. Like, it doesn't get any hotter than like just being in a community where you're building relationships and you're visible, your visibility, you're known in your community, you're being part of your community. So while we were in Thomasville, we were invited to visit a lot of shops. We did a little shop tour on our first day, kind of a casual, cool thing. And oh my gosh, the community there was amazing. And, welcoming. They all knew Amy. They all knew Amy and Chris. They knew we were coming. They were all excited. Like, it was incredible. And listening to those people, this is sort of the collaboration part. And even, the places we did not get to visit, but we did in our, tramping around town and going to restaurants and coffee shops and, ice cream and all the things that we were doing in town as a group, you could feel that community cared about the growth of their community. So my takeaway from that is we have to really be involved in our community. And I know I share that. I know this is something that I talk about a lot, but relationships are rocket fuel. If you stay in your little shop and you don't really participate in your community, they're not going to participate with you. And it's a give and take, right? It's a give and take. So my takeaway, again, was reinforcing around collaborations. And I say collaborations, a lot of people kind of stiffen up a little bit. They're like, oh, nobody wants to collaborate with me or whatever. Collaborations can just be, we know each other and we're sending customers to each other. It doesn't have to be this extreme formal thing. So I just want to give you a shout out for that. I mean, I have seen that over and over again again, as I mentioned at the top of the show, all of the communities that we have had the privilege, or I've had the privilege to go into and visit my clients in their towns, in their stores. It's just, it's cool. It's cool to see. We saw that in Greytown. We saw that in Mount Holly in North Carolina when we were there last year. In Greytown, New Zealand is where I mean. And I mentioned we've chatted about that. We had Adam and Millie on the show. And I'll tell you, it's just exciting. It's exciting to see what's happening in communities for independent local businesses. So shout out to Amy and Chris and all their community for everything that they're building there and how the community is coming together. And even if you're not in a downtown, like you don't have immediate neighbors or immediate downtown, the area, just be attentive to that. So it's relationships are rocket fuel and community is a lot. It's everything. Okay, number 4. So number 4 is a great reminder about energy and enthusiasm and about doing multiple revenue streams. I'm going to tell you, this all comes from Annie Jones, who is a firecracker. And she's the owner of the bookshelf in Thomasville. And I have known Annie for a long time. I've known her through her podcast. I've been following her bookstore for a while. And of course, she's a neighbor of Amy Hart's. So anyway, I've just been following her for some time. She welcomed us in. She did a wonderful chat with us. She did like a conversation. She told us what's working, what's not working, how she's growing her business. She talked about her multiple revenue streams, kind of going back up to this collaboration and relationship thing. And so my takeaway from Annie was about having multiple revenue streams and building community events. So Annie's revenue streams are like, she has an online store and her in-person bookstore, primarily her bookstore. That's the baby. That's the one, like, that's what she wants to be. She wants to be a local independent bookstore, which again, we love that, right? But she does subscription boxes. She has huge in-person events. She also, the other takeaway from Annie was the marketing, the way she markets. So she has this great customer advocacy, like customers are out advocating for her. So this is what we want. This is the dream, right? She markets a little bit different. She markets her team really well. Her team is very important to her business. So even some of the subscription boxes are featured around individual staff members, like the Susie box or whatever, because everybody knows that Susie loves that kind of reading. So it's really interesting. Go give her a follow. The Bookshelf. Annie Jones is her name. She actually just launched her own book recently, waiting for my copy to come up because she talks a lot about business in it. So anyhow, all of this to say, number 4, the firecracker of Annie Jones, and multiple revenue streams and marketing just a little bit differently, like doing things that really bring community closer. And again, in this particular, this year, hospitality, community, making people feel seen and understood and cared for is really important. And that's, I feel like, what Annie does in her shop with her people, with the events that she does. Even how she invited us in we felt very cared for. So customers just want to feel safe and comfortable, and they want to be part of what you're building. And so I just was really enjoyed our time there. That was a takeaway for me. I enjoyed my time with all of the retailers. By the way, we had a great time. I'm not excluding anybody. I just all the ideas that came from Annie were incredible. Okay, number 5, lean into others. Number 5 takeaway, an action step, or things that I want you to think about, and hopefully will be helpful to you, is, we cannot climb Mount Everest alone. And we can, right? I mean, people do it. People climb mountains by themselves all the time. Yay, you, go ahead, be alone. But when you go up that mountain, you're going to want to have the right gear. You're going to want to have a walking buddy. You're going to want a guide. You're going to want to have a map, right? You're going to want to have people around you that have done it before and have gone ahead and can tell you, hey, take this path, not that path. You're going to want to have people that are, cheering you along when you're having another day on the side of Mount Everest. That's what I actually tell myself. Anyhow, I tell myself I'm having another day on the side of Mount Everest whenever it's a bad day, because, there's going to be days like that. So leaning into others, again, just leaning into others. This was a takeaway. I felt like I was sitting back at my own, even though I was hosting the retreat, I was sitting back and I was watching these things unfold around the table and at conversations and during our walks, and while we were listening to the cicadas and, all the, in our beautiful southern weather that we had. And all I could think of was I'm watching them all lean into each other and leaning into me as well too. And it's wonderful because we can't create in a silo. We can't get new ideas if we're only involved in our own ideas. We don't always know the packing list, right? We don't know the gear to take. Again, back to the live, when the girls were all going live, there was just a couple of things that were kind of holding them back in the tech side. And Amy was like, oh, here, click, click, click. Oh, it's all done, right? So, we need people around us. We need to lean into others. We need to find a support. We need to find a support group. That doesn't sound good, but I hope that makes sense. But we need to be part of community and people who get us and understand us, and surround ourselves with people who are doing the thing, as I mentioned, people who care and people who are ambitious about it and generous and, approachable. And anyhow, that's the community I think we all need to be part of. And again, this is what we do inside the Retailers Inner Circle as well. It's virtual, it's online, we're not always in person, but we do have Zoom rooms where we bring people into. And I just think that it's important to listen to other people and get inspired and spark, right? As I think I mentioned that earlier, spark, and then watch the flame grow. And again, back to watching Amy and Kathy, their fire and everything it just took off, man. That spark started, and then a little spark, and then it was a little flame, and then it was whew, it was a big fire. And they're both, they've both caught on fire for that. And I want to encourage you to go watch them. But again, leaning into others. So those are my takeaways from my very own, where I'm hosting, but I learned from my retailers. I have actually a whole bunch more, but I thought those were the big ones. I'm always learning. I'm always learning from retailers. I'm always learning from you. So I love when you jump into my DMs and share with me what you're doing, how you're doing, what's new, what's going on, what's cool, what you like about the podcast, what you don't like about the podcast. I'll take that too. But this is a time I think that we all need to be leaning in, not leaning out. And when I say leaning in, I mean leaning in and paying attention to our businesses, with great thought and great intention, and being positive and happy about our businesses, and then and with other people, surrounding ourselves with other people. So surround yourself with other people who understand you. Our neighbors don't always understand us, right? Like our 9-to-5 neighbors, they're like, whatever, they just don't get it. But if you're looking for a community of retailers who may understand you, the mastermind opens up. We should have the waitlist opened up in August. The Retailers Inner Circle is open now. We have live coaching calls where you can jump into a Zoom room with me and we chat, and they're very casual. We're not fancy. You can probably tell that by this. We have dozens. I actually have to come up with that number soon, like how many masterclasses we have. We also have that simplified profit planning masterclass. It's a very simple, back of the napkin, easy to look at masterclass. That's available to you as well too. It's a simple spreadsheet. We have taken a bunch of big spreadsheets and put them on one little one, and our retailers love it because we also, on that, not just figuring out the numbers, but we also have on the bottom of that an opportunity for you to figure out, how many customers do I need to come in the door? And how much do they need to spend? And well, what if they spent $5 more? Then what if those, you can play with it, and our retailers love that. So that's available to you as well too. And if you want to join us, again, inside the Retailers Inner Circle. So I hope you found this helpful. I hope that you liked my takeaways. I want to encourage you, if you ever have the opportunity, go pop into Thomasville, Georgia. It's a great little town, really inspiring shops down there as well too. A shout out to all the people that we had the opportunity to visit. And there you go. Anyway, I hope you found this helpful. As always, please jump into my DMs on Instagram. I love chatting with you. So I hope you have a fantastic week. We will see you back here, same time, same place, next week. Well, that's it for this week's episode of the Creative Shop Talk podcast. I'm so glad that you're here to join us this week, and I hope you found value in what we're sharing here. I want to remind you that our website has all of the show notes. You can find it at wendybatten.com/podcast. Everything that you need to hear about today's podcast is there. Also an opportunity if you need to reach out to me. If I can support you in any way whatsoever, please feel free to reach out. So thanks for joining us. Please leave a review, subscribe if you can, and never miss an episode. We hope to see you back here again next week. Thanks, my friend. Have a great week.